I know that your time is extremely valuable, so I don't want to burn too much of it today. But I do want to ask if you hopped on the elevator right now with person X and you're about to go to the top floor of the tallest building and you've just got some time on the elevator and they just say, sir, what last piece of advice can you offer me with regard to balancing my work and my life?
Sensation Nation.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sensation Nation. I am smiling from ear to ear today because, one, I get to talk about a topic that I have been trying to get some people to help me help people with. But number two, the gentleman that I have to come on and help me talk about it is someone that I've been admiring for a very long time. So the best of both worlds has come together today. So I am super stoked to talk about the term of life work balance. Trying to figure out that work-life balance is a challenge that most people are still trying to crack the nut on. As a productive member of society, which is what the most of us are striving to be, we're trying to be the best we can in our professional lives, and we're trying to be the best that we can in our personal lives. And sometimes those things get imbalanced, and we're trying to line them up perfectly so that we can be the best people in both. And it is a challenge. So before I introduce the person that I'm going to have talk about work-life balance, I'm actually going to read the definition of work-life balance that I found prior to this episode. So when I looked up the term work-life balance, it is the state where a person chooses to equally prioritize the demands of work and career and the demands of their personal life. An individual who lacks this balance has more work and home obligations, works longer hours, and lacks personal time. Now, I want you all as the viewers and listeners to kind of just sit and marinate on that for a second as I introduce the guest that I'm going to have to come on and talk about this work-life balance problem that we're having. So General Anthony Cotton. General Anthony Cotton is the commander, United States Strategic Command, Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska. He is responsible for one of 11 unified commands under the Department of Defense. USSTRATCOM is responsible for strategic deterrence, nuclear operations, global strike, missile defense, joint electromagnetic spectrum operations, analysis and targeting, and missile threat assessment. U.S. STRATCOM is comprised of 150,000 soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, guardians, and civilians who operate globally, performing the command's missions. The command also provides the Secretary of Defense and President a range of options to deter adversaries and assure allies. That to me sounds like a whole lot of responsibility, and there's only one person that I know that can take it all on and also have a good work-life balance. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, General Anthony Cotton. Sir, welcome to the show.
Shooter, hey, thanks so much, and thanks for having me on today.
Yes, sir. Let me tell you guys see that I am wearing these colors. They're pretty recognizable everywhere you go. And then you see on my sleeve here that I am wearing a UNC Chapel Hill shirt. However, if you have not read his bio, sir, would you like to tell them where you went to school? There it is. North Carolina State. For those of you not familiar, the Triangle is known for its rivalries when it comes to sports. But I will tell you, I met General Cotton, and I told him that I would tell this story, and we'll see if he gets to stay in or not. But there I was in the summer when it was quiet, when all of my cadets were gone. I was sitting at my desk with some a polo shirt and some khakis on. And in walks, at the time, General Cotton, who I did not know at the time, and his lovely spouse. He came in, he told me his name, not his rank. He shook my hand and he said he needed a favor. There were some performance evaluations that needed to be signed. He passed along some information of someone that would be sending them to me. And not once did he say, I am blah. He didn't put his title in front of it. And I, of course, treat everybody with 100% respect and help people however and whenever I can. I didn't think too much of it, aside from I'm going to make sure this gets done. Then when I had a colonel in 06 call me and to say, I just sent you some stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, if a colonel's calling me about blah, 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 then this is starting, and long story short, turns out, sir, I think at that time, you might've been a 1-star. I think you were there touring the school with your daughter. And eventually we got those performance reports signed. And later, I did not find out until later who you were and what position you were working in. And then on top of it, I think it was about a week after that, I received a handwritten letter with a coin saying thank you. And sir, I just wanted to bring that memory back because I know you're very busy with obviously a lot of responsibility, but I just wanted to just recall that story to let you know how much it resonated with me.
Well, thanks, Shooter. And, and the rest of that story is you're right. So my daughter did visit the campus and tour the campus. And yes, we were a house divided because I'm paying tuition for a daughter that went and graduated from UNC Chapel Hill. So, and thank you so much for, actually those folks that I was able to go get those OPRs written for and signed. Thank you for, taking time out to be able to do that for a guy that you had no idea who he was when you walked into your detachment.
I will say I'm glad I did. And so with that, sir, that brings me to the work-life balance. There you are, even at that time when I met you, had a high level of responsibility, even at that stage in your life, yet you were there with your family, ensuring that you were balancing and doing the right things and taking care of your family. So I read that definition of work-life balance at the beginning of this podcast, but in general, no pun intended, what does work-life balance mean from your perspective?
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Shooter. So I'm probably one of the few folks that says there's no such thing as work-life balance, especially when you're in the military. But I guess it would probably actually work towards folks that are in the civilian sector too. And but let me clarify what I mean by that. Work-life balance would have meant that I wouldn't have taken care of those OPRs during the visit, right? Because that's where I get kind of stuck with work-life balance equating to 50-50. And I don't think it really is 50-50 time that's given, especially in the world that we live. There are going to be absolutely times where you're going to probably have to give 100% to the mission. But what you want to be able to do is recover, right? And recover from that. What I mean by that, you can't go full throttle, just take care of mission, and the family goes, and the family is on the sidelines, or significant others are on the sidelines, or you're what you consider things that kind of relax you, right? Because you can't just be in that mode all the time. So that's where I have a problem with the definition when people try to define it as truly, hey, I got to give 50% for home for work, and I got to give 50 for home life. Sometimes it's going to do this, but at the end of the day, Steve, right, I'm 38 years in it. I tell you what, I actually kind of jacked it up toward the early time of my career, and we could talk a little bit more about that on how I kind of self-leveled, if you will, with the help of others, because I know. We were talking in regards of are there other folks that can influence, and we can talk about that later. But that's kind of where I am on the definition writ large, and we can get further into that as we go on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I just, and by the way, for those that are watching or listening, I only read the first paragraph of his bio. There's a lot more that could be read. and I say that to say, whether you are familiar with military or not, everything that I just read, I would imagine sounds like a great deal of responsibility, 150,000 people, and just the level of responsibility that you have. I know that that is a lot to handle. But I also, from afar, I also admire the fact that I consider myself to be a well-traveled man. However, sir, I think you've got me beat. I see that you're traveling, you're enjoying life. You enjoy just sitting on your porch or barbecuing or whatever it may be. And when I see that from afar, I go, he is still making time to spend time with himself and his spouse. In order for you to be able to do that successfully, and I'll use that word successfully now, because you mentioned that there might have been some times where it was imbalanced. Are there any indicators that we should look for to remind us, hey, this thing's starting to get a little tilted one way or the other? Is there something that, as military members or civilian members in the workforce, is there something that we should be watchful for?
Yeah, and I learned it the hard way though. But like I said, I was able to recover. So for me, it was literally Miss Marcia, my wife, right? So what I would tell you is the folks that are close to you, pay attention, when they say something. And I probably didn't pay attention enough at the earlier stages, and then it kind of got down to the, okay, I'm only going to tell you this one more time, right? What is it? Is it the Air Force or is it the family, right? And that's kind of a holy cow, I mean, I gotta get this right. And the reason is because, even my father, who was an Air Force Chief Master Sergeant, and he didn't quite get it right either. And then he kind of was able to kind of self level toward the end. I didn't get a lot of time, hanging out with my dad. I was the only child, but hanging out with my dad and throwing football or throwing the baseball and all other kind of stuff. But I did help him. We did yard work together. We washed the cars. And my dad was a big Buick dude before he transitioned to Cadillac. And so that's why I really like having a nice yard. I like having a nice car. As far as being clean, pride and ownership was what my dad would always say. But it was all that was kind of our time together, right? So. But that was a little later in life, not when I was like a little 5-year-old. That was more when I was more of a teenager, when you kind of figured it out. But at the end of the day, Shooter, here's the deal. When you're on your deathbed, you want your family and friends around you, right? It's not going to be the United States Air Force, right? The United States Air Force will have all the pomp and circumstance that happens with the funeral itself, but they're not going to grab your hand when you take your last breath if you're on your deathbed, right? I want that to be Marcia, and I want that to be my kids around me, right? So I can peacefully, go. So when she made that remark, I was like, holy cow, that's a real thing. Where she said, okay, what is it, the Air Force or the family? What's unique about that, Shooter, is that wasn't the first time that I had heard a similar story. And I had heard this similar story. Matter of fact, it was a couple's outing. It was with Marcia and myself, and I won't name the senior, but a very senior Air Force leader, he and his wife. And she brought it up and said the exact same thing. And it's just, she says, hey, no, I gave him an ultimatum, right? And this person retired as a very, very senior member of the United States Air Force, and has done well, and they're still together, obviously. So as the listeners think through this, when you hear it the first time, take heed. Don't have to hear it over and over again, because unfortunately for a lot of us that don't get that time to figure it out and correct it, you might lose your loved one, right? And you definitely don't want that to happen, because you're going to have someone that and folks around you that you can celebrate with, right? The goods and the bad things that happen in life. So that's unfortunately, and I say unfortunate because it took about the third nudge, right? And I should have paid attention after the first nudge.
I like that, sir. For those of you that are listening and watching, pay attention to the first time that you get some type of sign, whether it be from your significant other or your loved ones, your children, or whatever it may be. Even your health. If there's something that's just kind of, hey, I just don't feel quite right. Listen to your body, listen to your family, listen to your friends. Now, sir, we talk about work-life balance, and I know I caged it in the very beginning of trying to balance the two, but I also think there may be some art to balancing within each scope, if you will. I will ask you kind of a two-part question. How do you manage? Because I know everyone is vying for your time while you're at work. Everyone's going to be vying for your time when you're at home. How do you balance within the work aspect of it? And how do you balance within the personal aspect of it? So within two different lanes, if you will.
Yeah, I think, for everyone, especially senior leaders, but to be frank, anyone who has a front office, everyone's going to try to manage your calendar. Everyone wants to be able to kind of fill that white space that's in that calendar. I used to be the guy that used to do that on the other side. So the point of view of being a former executive officer that kind of understands, how you're trying to fill up the principal's calendar. So I kind of go into this, in all the hands that I've had. I go into this saying, hey, folks, I need some time where I can kind of take a break even throughout the schedule. And it can't be that critical that I get that you literally have to put on a schedule. Hey, tell the boss he needs to take a potty break right now. I mean, that's a little much. But to be frank, I have seen folks that will go into the office and just work, just schedule their day until the end of the day with no time to kind of breathe and take a breath, right? I try to ensure that I tell my staff that, nope, hey, you guys are in charge of making sure people don't cross the moat. But at the same time, you have to make it so I have a time where I can kind of recharge and reflect. And that might even be, 30 minutes between, a couple of meetings as opposed to 15 minutes in between a meeting that's going to go 10 minutes long, always ends up being 10 minutes, longer, and then you get 5 minutes, right? So just how do you do that? And if you can do that, then you can manage, you can manage your schedule a little better. This past week, for example, I was gone all week. I was traveling TDY. I was all over the East Coast. Got back late on Friday. So now I got to catch up. I actually have an office here in my house where I can on the weekends go and catch up on stuff. That was part of the reason that we had to kind of rearrange our schedule a little bit, because I had something that just popped up even on a Sunday. So we'll kind of work our way through that to be able to handle a piece on the professional side.
Yes, sir.
Now, the second part of your question was, how do I do that, on the personal side? Well, like I said, I mentioned what my dad the one thing that I actually hate is the fact that when we went to privatize housing, we don't do lawn work ourselves anymore, right? I actually enjoyed that. When I was a wing commander, man, I love just on a Saturday, getting behind that lawnmower and it's just me, man.
Right.
I have my headset on, I'm listening to some music or whatever, and I'm just cutting the grass and no one's bothering me. And I just have a little bit of me time. And then that would transition into, I really do. I mean, I like cleaning up the rides, like back in high school days when then you take a nice clean ride to the park, and everything. But I mean, it really is. DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, summertime for me.
Absolutely.
Right, no kidding. So I like, that's my kind of me time. And then, as you mentioned, Marsha and I were we're foodies, and we actually are here in Omaha that has some incredible restaurants where you can kind of see a lot James Beard Award winning restaurants here in Omaha, Nebraska. But be able to do that when we go and visit folks, just some me time with our close friends and those kind of things. And that kind of resets you, right? And for me, that's enough, right? To be able to do that. You mentioned travel. Yes, I was able to do that up until this current job. This current job, I probably won't do any traveling until I'm out of this current job. But everything will be kind of close to home. But we enjoy that, and hey, but here's the caveat though. I told Marcia that she shouldn't change, what she does in regards to having, going out with, with her girlfriends or whoever. I mean, whether it's a European trip or whatever they decide they want to do. Don't let me be the one to kind of jack all that up, right? Just because I have to stay. So I'll pause there, but that's just kind of me in a nutshell.
I like that, sir, because I hadn't really considered that, prior to, formulating our discussion before this podcast. I know that, our soulmates, our partners, our significant others in life, we should be locked at the hip. But sometimes that won't be the case. And if one person in that relationship is bogged down by the mission, which I'll talk about here in a second, then that doesn't necessarily mean that the other has to also be bogged down. They've got the freedom to continue to have fun and have their own personal balance in life as well. I like that piece of advice.
Absolutely.
So, sir, early on, you mentioned that it should not necessarily be 50-50 when it comes to balancing work and life. And this long debated discussion of people first, mission always, or mission first, people always, which one is the most important? Is it the people? Is it the mission? I would imagine that at some point, depending upon what's happening mission-wise, it could get a little tilted and a little off balance. But then when you get things back aligned again, maybe you can kind of say, all right, things are a little slow on the mission front. Let's get the morale up and keep the morale up and things like that. What are your thoughts on which is the most important, the people?
No, I think, Shooter, you hit the nail on the head, right? I think a successful commander recognizes that it's going to be this way. And, unfortunately, we've had plenty of, examples of commanders who on paper look incredibly well because the mission they did incredibly well on mission. But they left death and destruction in their wake. And what I mean by that is the quality of life of the people. That's one of the reasons that we went about changing how we write the OPRs now, and it drives success now is also what I call that emotional intelligence that comes with being a commanding officer, because it's going to be a little bit of both. Right. It's you hit it on the head. There's going to be times where I'm going to have to tell the men and women that work under my charge that, hey, folks, we're going to have to really, really concentrate on this piece right now. And this is the mission piece. But guess what? We'll balance this out and we'll give folks opportunities to, one, because I have to, right? You can't have people full throttle all the time. But you're going to have to, give them an opportunity to what I would call, kind of recharge themselves as well, reacquaint themselves with family members if, in fact, we're doing these weird shifts because we have to, right? Yes, because the reason that you're wearing this cloth is the defense of this nation and our allies, right? And there might be times where that's going to have to call for you to give 100%, in that aspect, and then we'll find time to make sure that we celebrate the effectiveness of what you did when we did 100% mission set, later on down the road. I think that's really, really important, and I think commanders need to really, and when I say commanders, I mean that's all the way down to flight commander, right? But that folks recognize and realize that.
Yes, sir. I want to take this opportunity right now to make sure that people have a little bit of time to reflect on this great information that you're giving, because what I hear you're saying right now is there's no secret formula. Like, I can't bring you on this podcast and say, sir, can you tell me the secret formula to your work-life balance? And it's more of an art than a science, and you have to kind of just weigh what's going on in your life and things like that. And from a sustainability type perspective, is it difficult to put a number on it to say this is going to be sustainable throughout my next 2 years in this job or 3 years in this job? Or is it still more in that art form where I just have to play it by ear and see how things go?
Yeah, I think what's really, really important, and once again, I'll go back to what I've seen in folks that have been successful. I think I think if you turn it all into science, it probably won't go well for you, right? I think there's going to have to be it because that's the human emotional intelligence piece that goes in, whether it's personally for you or whether it's for the organization in which you're in charge of, right? And that's the art piece, right? That's what makes us kind of special as human beings. And I think that's going to be really important to relay to folks that, the way I keep talking about how this work-life balance that kind of does like this, but at the end of the day, you hope kind of balance itself out over the years, if you will, not 38 years of just this.
Yes, sir.
It's been like this, it's been like this, it's been kind of 1 year, it may have been like this the whole year, right? But at the end of the day, hopefully, you can kind of recover. I think that's a combination of art and science.
Yes, sir. You mentioned 38 years of active duty service. First and foremost, sir, thank you for your service. That is honorable. It is admirable. But I would also imagine that it has not been easy. And as you mentioned, some years, it's a little off balance. Other years, maybe a little more balanced and things like that. Seeing you be on this journey and this path as long as you have, to some people, they look at you and go, wow, that is impossible. I don't know how he did it. I appreciate you for coming on and humanizing yourself a little bit to let everyone know that you are a person too. A lot of times we see people in senior positions, whether it be military or civilian, and we forget that they are human too. And it's okay to check up on people as it is to check on people. So with that, sir, that's a very extensive career. If you're willing to share, do you happen to recall a specific time where your life really got imbalanced between that work-life aspect? Is there a particular example that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, it's probably that one where it was that third nudge, right? And that's when I was a squadron commander. and Marcia was, she had her own career. She was a school teacher at the same time. And I'll tell you, shoot, I just didn't get that right, man. It's like, hey, I gotta do this. We're the number one squadron. We gotta do this. I need your help. Nope, I can't go. I can't do this. I can't, it was, man, I look back on it and kind of go, holy crap, man, who the hell was that guy?
Right.
But I was that guy. And to be frank, it wasn't an aspiration of hey, because I want to be a 4-star general one day. I wasn't even thinking about that, right? But it truly was. I wanted to be the best that I could be, and for some reason, this nugget of mine thought that being the best I could be was this kind of old model of, hey, so mama needs to be on your side. She needs to do whatever, and boom, and it's not, absolutely wasn't true.
That's right.
That didn't have to happen, nor should that be the way we had to, we prosecuted that. But man, that's what was in my head. But like I said, it was that third nudge, and I don't think I would have had a fourth nudge.
Yes, sir.
Looking back, on, just kind of reflecting on, I really jacked that up. So that's why you're right. That's why I want to be a little transparent to the young men and women out there, or hell, somebody that's my age, to kind of go, you need to pay attention, and my failure was I wasn't paying attention, but it was during that time frame.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for shouting out your spouse. I don't know what kind of role I can play in it, but at least it will put you in her good graces when she watches this back later. Because
well, maybe not.
It is very evident to me that she played a very significant role in your success in your personal life as well as your professional life. And what I take away from that is none of us can do it alone. It may not be our spouse. It could be our children. It could be our friends. It could be our mentors. And we cannot walk this journey alone. And we've got to check up on each other, police each other, and make sure that we're not going too far on one side of the scope than the other. So speaking of work-life balance, balance, sir, I know that your time is extremely valuable, so I don't want to burn too much of it today. But I do want to ask if you hopped on the elevator right now with person X and you're about to go to the top floor of the tallest building and you've just got some time on the elevator and they just say, sir, what last piece of advice can you offer me with regard to balancing my work and my life?
Wow. Okay. So it depends what. Hopefully, it's a multi-story building, right?
Yeah, no, we'll call it the Burj Khalifa. We'll call it the tallest building in the world.
No, I think shooter, like I said, it's almost like everything that you hear people talk about. Listen more. Right? Listen more, talk less. So what I mean by that is in all aspects of it, right? So for me, it was that nudge, right? And that's a listen more. We kind of opened up with this on, hey, so what are the signs that tell you that you're kind of out of balance? A lot of times, if you're so far into it yourself, you're not going to recognize if you're out of balance, right? But other people around you will. So it's as simple as listening, right? So I think what I would tell anyone is listen more, take feedback. Some people say they take feedback, but they don't take feedback. Take feedback from folks because at the end of the day, that's what's going to save you. Because there's going to be folks that can kind of see a change in you, a change in your behavior, and change in the way you even kind of react to how you respond to when someone says something to you. Because it's to your point that you said earlier. Physically, you could be in a different state and not even know it. Mentally, definitely, you could be in a different state and not even know it. So listen to folks and be able to let them in.
I love it, sir. I really appreciate the knowledge that you're passing on to myself and everyone watching and listening as well. So it's been great having you on, sir. And I hope this really helps people to avoid some pitfalls of imbalanced work-life relationship. The last thing I want to do, sir, before I let you go is I like to end every single episode the same way on a fun, very quick 10-question round of what do you prefer. So, sir, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Question number one, sir. When it comes to tea, do you prefer sweet tea or unsweet tea?
Sweet tea.
Sweet tea. Number two, greatest boxer, Ali or Tyson?
Ali.
Number three, movie, Star Wars or Game of Thrones?
Ooh. Game of Thrones.
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. When it comes to fitness, are you more of a treadmill type of person or do you prefer to get on the track?
Treadmill.
Libations. I think I know the answer to this one. Do you prefer neat or on the rocks?
Neat.
Nice. Number six, work, telework or in the office?
In the office.
Number seven, travel, cruise or all-inclusive stay in one spot?
Cruise.
Number eight, villains, Joker or Darth Vader?
Joker.
Number nine, I've seen you at a jazz festival just by circumstance in Miami. So this one is in regard to music. Do you prefer live music or pre-recorded?
Live, as long as the artists can sing live.
It doesn't always sound the same live as it does in the studio. And last but not least, sir, number 10, when it comes to chicken wings, do you prefer flats or do you prefer drums?
Oh man. Flats.
Flats it is. Well, sir, thank you for playing along. Number one, thanks for playing along. But number two, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on to share information with the viewers and the listeners. And I am very grateful to have crossed paths with you. And I really appreciate your mentorship.
Well, Shooter, I tell you what, man, I'm looking at you and following your career as well. Congratulations to all the successes, even the podcast, but this is just one element of it. Congratulations on your Air Force career and where it's taking you. I'm proud. Hey, I'll be able to kind of sit, in that rocking chair knowing, that we have men and women caliber of yourself as an example. So I can have that single malt, neat scotch and not have to worry about too much.
I love it. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. Listen to the signs, watch for the signs. Don't allow yourself to get too imbalanced. Balance that work-life relationship. Until next time on Sensation Nation, I'm out.